Welcome to the Between Games interview. My name is Matt Schilling, and joining us today is the superintendent for the Sioux City Diocese Schools, Patty Lansing. And Patty, it's a pleasure to have you on with us here today.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
So we're here to talk about something that we hear a lot about being talked about in our churches right now and being sent home in school newsletters and things of that nature. And it's the Monsignor Lafferty Tuition Foundation, otherwise known as MLTF. What is the Monsignor Lafferty Tuition Foundation?
So this is part of our STO program in Iowa, and it's basically Diocese of Sioux City's version. Monsignor Lafferty Tuition Foundation awards tuition grants to students of qualifying families that attend all 15 of our schools in this diocese. Even with the implementation of the Education Savings Accounts, or ESAs, many families still qualify for MLTF assistance and rely on that to help with additional grants above and beyond what the ESAs offer. So, through the support of MLTF donations from our supporters in this diocese, families who qualify for that piece can attend our Catholic schools without having to carry an overly heavy financial burden to pay tuition. So, anyone can invest in Catholic education by donating to MLTF, and they receive a 75% Iowa tax credit. So every $1,000 you would donate to MLTF, that will result in a $750 tax credit coming back to the donor.
So are there any limitations on who can receive the Iowa tax benefits?
Any individual taxpayer in the state of Iowa who makes a contribution to MLTF is eligible for this tax credit. C Corps, S Corps, LLCs, and partnerships can also qualify for this tax credit. And then may also be eligible for federal deductions as well.
Well, that's a great opportunity for businesses out there.
It is.
What benefits are there for the donors themselves?
So first and foremost, if especially from our Catholic parish members, we hope to pass on our Catholic values and our faith to our students in our schools, so they can help support that mission, the mission of our church overall. We also have been working really hard at getting our teacher salaries increased. And so that drives up our cost to educate our students. And in turn, then we have to raise tuition. So we're finding that the ESA, while it's wonderful, it doesn't always cover all of the cost to educate in our schools. Other benefits, just in general, helping invest in our schools' financial sustainability. And then finally, investing in kids, because ultimately these awards go to kids and families to help them afford tuition to attend our Catholic schools.
So making a donation, it seems like it might only be a benefit for those who are a little bit more well off. Is that in fact the case?
That is not the case at all. Anyone, again, who is a taxpayer in the state of Iowa, I think everybody pays taxes, right? So it's not just for the wealthy. Anyone who can and wants to support our Catholic school families can take advantage of this tax credit.
What's the process that goes along with donating to the Monsignor Lafferty Tuition Foundation?
So donations can be made through December 31st at 11:59 p.m. Either online, they can go to scdiocese.org /MLTF, or they can also get a gift form from any of our Catholic schools and then just give a cash or a check with that gift form. If anyone is considering, we also take grain and stock donations. For grain donations, they'll need to call the office at the Diocese of Sioux City and talk to Jessica Wilcox. Donating grain has a different process. So if anyone would like to do that, then they can just call the Chancery offices and they'll step them through it.
I also know that they'll need to work with our local elevator to help facilitate that so they get the proper paperwork also.
Right. If farmers are wanting to donate grain, then they can get a really significant state and possibly, again, a federal tax savings. As I mentioned before, gifts of stock are acceptable too. MLTF cannot accept contributions from donor advised funds or DAFs, but we can take grain and stock.
Can the Monsignor Lafferty Tuition Foundation gifts be designated to an individual school, or can they be designated to individual families?
Great question. So yes, they can be designated to a specific school. If you're an alumni of one of our Catholic schools, or you maybe have kids in our school, you can designate which school you want that to go to. And there's a space to do that on the gift form. Also, if you donate online, they cannot be designated to individual families because families do have to qualify financially. Families that are within 400% of the federal poverty level are eligible for these awards. And so those they have to financially qualify. A donor cannot designate a certain family.
We know that each of the 15 schools in the diocese are given a goal on how many tax credits they are able to sell. What happens if an individual school goes over the goal and they sell more than what their goal is?
Sure, and we do have that happen. So any school that goes over their fundraising goal can keep all of those funds designated for their school. However, they do have to have a number of qualified families apply. So we have had schools in the past who have raised a lot of funds, but they didn't have enough families either apply or they didn't have enough families who were financially eligible to receive an award. So it just depends on the number of applicants and the families that apply.
Are all Catholic school families eligible to apply for MLTF assistance?
We actually encourage all families to apply because a lot of families assume they aren't going to qualify. But the guidelines are really, it makes it very feasible for a lot of families to qualify for this grant. So as long as they meet the income requirements by the state of Iowa, they are eligible for an award.
So we now have the education savings accounts. Are families also eligible for MLTF if they also receive the ESA credits?
It depends. So for the 25-26 school year, every student who attends a Catholic school will receive an ESA. But only those students who are financially eligible will get an MLTF grant. So I guess if they qualify, they can get both. If they don't qualify for MLTF, they'll still get the ESA.
Can a family receive both the ESA and the MLTF award?
Yes. So again, for next year, every student will get an ESA, but only students who are financially eligible will get the MLTF awards, but they have to apply.
So with ESAs now being around and this is coming up on its third year of existence, is there still a need for the MLTF?
Yes, that question comes up a lot, and I think a lot of folks assume that we don't need it anymore because of the ESA, but the answer is absolutely yes. Many schools' tuition is above the ESA amount. Our average cost per student in this diocese is around $9,000 to $10,000. Also, in many cases, current tuition doesn't cover the full cost to educate. So we're working with our schools to get their tuition more in line with their cost per student, especially as we try to raise teacher salaries and get our salaries more competitive with our area schools. So MLTF is still needed to supplement that overall cost to educate. And we do stack funds, MLTF funds with ESAs to maximize that tuition assistance for families who need it.
What is the reality of the impact of the Monsignor Lafferty Tuition Foundation?
So short term, within the Diocese of Sioux City, we currently have schools, as I mentioned, whose tuition is greater than the ESA amount that's allocated. So for those students, ESA does cover a significant portion of the tuition, but not all of it. So many families in our diocese still need that extra assistance from MLTF for the amount that's greater than the ESA in the short term.
So long term, what are we looking at long term wise?
So looking forward, our schools, as I mentioned, we're needing to raise tuition, first of all, due to increasing costs, the cost of inflation, the cost to educate. And then also, we're really working on getting our staff salaries more competitive. We're trying to raise our salaries in light of that, first of all, the tough job education market. And then also, as public school teacher salaries were raised to a minimum of $47,500 this year, and they're going to increase again next year to $50,000. We have a lot of work to do to get our teacher salaries competitive so that we can obtain and retain excellent teachers in our Catholic schools.
What's the biggest challenge that you are hearing right now in regards to with Monsignor Lafferty Tuition Foundation, with us also being able to access the ESAs?
I think the biggest challenge is the misconception that we don't need this program anymore. So there is really still a lot of unmet need, and this program is still much needed by families. And yeah, so that's the biggest challenge is fundraising and having those dollars available to give scholarships to kids who need them.
Well, we thank you for joining us here between the games. We always have a large chunk of time, and we're happy that you're able to spend this time educating us just a little bit more about MLTF and how MLTF and ESA kind of work hand in hand.
Great. Thanks for your help, Matt.
We'll be back after this.